Hi, Vincent.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm horrible because I was just on that. What is that
That
Swedish guy's name?
number four. I didn't know how annoying he was. I mean, I, I started a stream and I listened and there was nobody else. So he invited me to speak. So I did my spiel, and then I realised how annoying he was. You know, it's like, well, try and understand what I'm saying before you disagree with it instead of interrupting me the whole time.
And my biggest thing, he doesn't like that I'm anti-Islam. Hey Siri, turn on the table. He doesn't like that I'm anti-Islam, but he lets his his guests make fun of my voice for being gay, and he tells me that I'm faking it and that I came out of the voice. I'm just talking like this in order to fit in. Anyway, I did get new birds. I want to show you. Where are them? Okay, I
Well,
did get.
you accuse me of being a nihilist and a Luciferian and all kinds of strange
He,
things.
he did the same thing. He declared me of. He accused me of Luciferianism. Okay, this new one. Hold on. This
Well,
gray
that's a
one.
okay.
This gray one here, right down there. With
Hold on. Let me give you the full screen treatment. How do I do that?
these are my new birds.
Oh no, I didn't mean to do it to myself. Um, how do I do it to? There is a way of doing it, but I'm sorry. Sorry, Vincent. I'm trying to work out how to give you this full screen treatment, and then we can all look at your birds. Okay, I think I know how to do that. Solo layout. There we are.
Okay, I'll show you my new birds. Okay, well this. Oh, that one right there with the red head. You see him with the red head and the like. He just jumped down there.
I see
Actually,
him.
and the one next to it is the female. The one with the red head is a red-headed finch, and there's this female next to them. You can see they have the same kind of wings, and that's a boy and a girl, and that's red and magenta. And then I got two new society finches who were supposed to be silver bills. Oh, there's one down there. Hold on. Well, there you see. Hold on. Move. The red-headed finch is in the way. Okay, wait. He just moved. There he is. He's on that perch down there. Him. Right. Oh, it's kind of. Oh God, this thing's in the way. There he is.
Okay.
Right in the center. That's gray. And then there's another one that's his color that is named charcoal.
Right.
So yeah, I got new ones. But
Three.
yeah, but that guy's an idiot.
Okay, well, I'll know. No, I'm going to unfollow him because he's just so annoying.
He's and yeah, to be all pro-Palestinian, but okay with your guests making fun of gay people and accusing gay people of faking their voices and shit like that is retarded. And
Yeah, I know. I know. Well, some people are a
but
bit
this is
stupid. I mean, he's
this is
obviously one of those people who prefer to talk than to listen.
Yeah, he doesn't. He says he likes to listen, but he really doesn't. He cuts you off if he doesn't like what you're saying.
Or I think he suffers from ADHD. He just gets bored and then he wants to hear the sound of his own voice again, and off he goes. But anyway, at least I know now.
Yeah,
But I
well,
mean, he seemed like he had a theory because he was into Albert Pike, right?
yeah, but I mean, no, but he's into conspiracy theory, Freemasonry, Zionism about it being Satanism and child sacrifice and all this bullshit. Hold on, I'm
And
gonna
how
show my.
evil people are. Because I think it's like, oh, how can you not care about children dying? It's like, well, we all know that. that children die in a war. Oh, but you can't say that. You have to wear your heart on your sleeve. Otherwise, you're evil and Luciferian.
Yes.
Which a lot of people do. It's like, you have to show your disgust at Hamas or Israel or apartheid or whatever it is they want you to express disapproval for. There's a kind of a
Oh,
type of
and they're
person.
the type that don't let you. They were telling me that, my voice was so gay and that was reflective of why I side with neither Palestine nor Israel. Like, oh, you don't take a stand. Why would I take a stand between two scumbags? And another thing, total bullshit. They were like, oh, there were no killings. They just took hostages, but they didn't, there were no babies killed. That's not true. Weren't there children killed? People died in this Hamas attack, right? They're like saying no one died.
Oh, I'm certainly not going to argue about these things. It's like, how can we possibly know? It's like arguing about whether God exists or not. It's like, I believe in God.
No,
God
come
exists.
on.
It's like,
If
yeah, we
you
know
could,
you.
are you saying we couldn't go to Israel and find families who actually would admit that, you think that these are all paid actors and, these people got paid to go missing?
Oh God, I mean, we know it's so boring that nobody would even bother asking, right?
What do you mean so boring? They're just bombed 11,000 children or whatever it is, and they're claiming it's because Israel was invaded and all these hundreds of people died, and you're claiming that even if it's all false, it doesn't matter?
No, I'm saying that the people who don't care, who hate Muslims, just wouldn't care if all the Muslims died.
No, that's not the point that I'm making. I'm saying that this Swedish guy is claiming there was never any Hamas invasion into Israel, and there were never any deaths in Israel. And you seem to, I find it very
No, no, I don't
hard.
agree with that. But when people are talking like that, I don't particularly want to continue the conversation with them because that they'd be wanting to convince me that they are correct in asserting that no Jews died. Right? That was what he was saying.
Yeah, he was saying that no Jews died, and you know what I mean. And then you have to take a side with these people. If you're not on one side or the other, then you're just a waste of space to them, right?
Yeah, so they want you to think, Hamas are angels and Jews are devils, and if you don't, then they're going to, say things about you. And I suppose other people, to a greater or lesser degree, behave like that. I mean, except that, I'm not going to wear my, heart on my sleeve and say how terrible these people are getting killed in a war, for God's sakes. It's a war. They call it a war, right? And then they
Yeah,
talk
it's
about
called.
atrocities. It's like, yeah, well, atrocities are committed. People get bombed. People die. And I mean, it would be nice, I guess, for Americans to think, well, we don't want our tax dollars wasted on that war. And I guess Americans also have to sponsor both sides. It's like, we have to help Hamas, but we have to spend money on giving the Israelis bombs to kill Hamas with. That's the position now, isn't it? Go quiet.
No, I'm here. I'm here. It's just the idea that I'm not past the idea that Israel did it on purpose. I wouldn't say that, but I'm not so insane, like, as to go to the point to say that this is just some mass conspiracy. That invasion was a mass conspiracy.
Yeah, the thing is, we can't prove it. I mean, no, we're not going to be, investigating, the truth of it. We wouldn't know where. Doubtless there will be people who claim that they have the truth of the matter, and unless it's agreed, it will always be in dispute. So, I mean, I just prefer not to argue about these things.
Well, they're
But
not obviously not worthy of having a discussion with, because if they're just going to resort to telling you that you're involved in witchcraft, then then they're not really worth discussing
No, no.
anything
I
with.
mean, you can tell just by the way he's talking that he can't. He doesn't really have a coherent argument, and he's saying, I heard from this person, and I heard from that person, and here is my blend of pick and mix beliefs that you know, are not any religion, but just my own blended pick and mix beliefs. And I wanted to talk to you about Sheilaism. Have you heard that expression?
Yeah, where you just, like you said, pick and mix from all these different kind of religions.
And a lot of people are like that, and it came from America because in Europe it's far more rigid. It's like you better believe in Jesus in the correct way or else. But because of the First Amendment, America's a land of cults.
Yes.
And I think it is a bad thing. I mean, for you guys, because then you'll
Well,
be. You'll just get charlatans, creating their own cult and fleecing, fools from their money, you know.
yes, but I think theological variety helps and theological evolution. I told you, religious people actually are smarter than non-religious people who don't exercise. Religious people exercise this pseudo-logical stuff all the time. It's almost like logic, and going through it exercises your brain. So I think it's good to exercise your brain in different ways, especially when none of this is real. Why not just let them exercise their brains and find new ways to exercise their brains and think of new things and new discoveries?
But you can actually deduce a lot of things from Jewish theology. I'm quite keen to explore this idea that Jewish theology is Jewish philosophy, and that's really all we need to solve our problems. Have I explained this to you or not?
Go ahead, because I'm eating a sandwich. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm just going to step away for just one.
Guys, wait 1 minute. Claire will be right back.
Okay, and it is this. If you attribute good and evil to God, and you accept that suffering is punishment for sin, then when you suffer from bad government, you can easily fix a problem by going through the list of sins that your government allows. And if that happens, you can think, oh well, we better adopt Sharia now to stop suffering, and that's how it works. I mean, for Jews, it would be, oh well, we better follow the Torah more closely or something. So I think it's a very simple system that people can understand. You see, because otherwise we'd all be competing with each other with our different conspiracy theories, which are really very boring to anyone else. And because we are a bit of a bore about our own pet ideas, we will never get above fighting with each other in the mob. And so there must be a way of transcending all this. And if you adopt the moral system of the Abrahamic God, you are at least closer to solving the problem. That's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. But you're saying you're going to be promoting your beyondism, and somebody else is going to be promoting something else, and then none of us will get anywhere. I mean, I'm not saying that there won't be people who say, "Oh, I believe in God too, and I believe in secular Quranism light," or I mean, there will be some sort of variation to our idea that somebody might just want to appropriate and say and copycat from, and then stick their own branded improvement on it, or alleged branded improvement on it. But if we go as close to the top as possible, we will get more attention because more people instantly understand what we're saying. I mean, you understand what I'm saying, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
So that is my proposal to get the clearest narrative that is easy for people to repeat and share and propagate. And they don't even have to agree with me. They just have to say, here's a silly idea of Claire's. It goes like this. Don't you think it's silly? And it, they'll be doing my job for me, even as they wish to suppress it.
Well, as long as people are discussing your ideas in favor or against, you're getting somewhere.
Well, yeah, and then you'll be associated with me, and then you can, get your idea propagated. Um, so I mean, I think that's how it works, and we just have to find, the best people who will give us a fair hearing, and we don't need them to agree with us. We just need them to understand and be prepared to talk about it. Because if we had a really incoherent idea and nobody nobody knew what we were on about, then we'd be nowhere, would we? I mean,
Well,
okay,
obviously not, because if he probably, I don't know how many followers he has, but he has, well, he's more mainstream, but I mean, if we were accusing people of Satanism and witchcraft, we would have more followers, Claire. We would. This is what I told you. I'm telling you, you'll get more, Carol Balzette will get more followers than us because, it was nonsense. People want nonsense. They're dumb and they're irrational and they want irrational nonsense. And what makes sense to them is not going to make sense to people like us. And they want nonsense.
yes, I know they want scandal and gossip. Did you watch my stream on Stephen James's channel celebrating his 1,000th subscriber?
No, what is that about?
Oh, nothing. He just had a kind of party, and I was there at the beginning, and they just basically talked nonsense, and he shushed me when I wanted to talk about, what I want to talk about, and he basically thinks, well, you've had your quota of 20% ideas, and now we have to have the shit that the 80% shit that makes up the whole on my stream. That's how he rolls. But I see that perhaps as necessary because people prefer shit.
No, Claire, no, I see this is, my Jehovah's Witness upbringing does sometimes color what I want or what I believe or how I operate because, the one thing I do kind of like about Jehovah's Witnesses is they don't adulterate no, that's different. I don't want to say that. They don't adulterate, their message in order to get more followers. They don't, or not even adulterate their message. They don't get silly. They don't bring rock bands into the kingdom halls so that they get more people. They don't start allowing lax morals to get more people. Okay, Jehovah's Witnesses would have more people if they didn't make dress suggestions, if women weren't told to wear skirts below the knee, if men were told not to wear tight pants, things like that, muscle shirts, and it would be easier to keep people in. And you would have a bigger following, but they would be shitty people. And it's better to have a few good men than a bunch of shitty people. At least when you're trying to make something good. I mean, there is something to be said about the masses, and there is something about having numbers, but there's also something to be said about quality and time and energy and that kind of thing. You want serious people. You don't want people that are going to be joking 80% of the time. Like, they said that one of the reasons that Muslims kind of started getting kind of clout in the USSR was because they wouldn't drink. And so, they didn't have a drinking problem like half of Russia did. And people actually, respected that. They respected the fact that the Muslims weren't always drunk like, every other Russian man. And it gave them status.
And probably more people wanted to hire them.
Yes, they did. They liked hiring them because, well, I heard that the military liked them. The military, I heard at least that, all I know is that Muslims even though they're looked down upon because they're not drunkards, they are viewed as more reliable. There's a reliability there. And, there's a reliability even, if you do come from a group that's known for being more staunchly moral, like, Jehovah's Witnesses are known for not being violent. Okay. Actually, some people might not think that's good, but they're also, they're also known for like stringently following the law. Like Jehovah's Witnesses, they're always, they have this big thing about always following the law unless it breaks God's law. But no matter what, you shouldn't speed, you shouldn't steal, you shouldn't do this. And I do think Jehovah's Witnesses follow the law better than the average citizen does. And they do have a certain degree of respect for that. And the thing is that if you're an employer, let's say that you have an employer and you have some average Joe Schmo who never goes, who isn't reminded constantly to follow the law and not to steal and, all these different kinds of things. Like Jehovah's Witnesses they always have stories. They base lots of their things on these personal stories that happen to Jehovah's Witnesses. And a very recurring theme is immorality at the workplace. Like, oh, well, George was the only Jehovah's Witness at his firm, and he was the only one who didn't steal. And then the boss found out, and everyone got fired except for George, and it was such a good witness to the boss because it showed that Jehovah's Witnesses make model citizens and things like they always have things like that, and no drunkenness. Okay, you're allowed to drink a glass of wine, but you're not allowed to get drunk, like, or you're not allowed to do drugs. If you have a Jehovah's Witness working for you, chances are they won't do drugs. Chances are they're going to steal less. I know there's Jehovah's Witnesses that steal. I know there are. But, I'm just saying, I think that they steal less than your average Catholic. I think that they do steal less than the average Catholic. I know they commit less violent crimes than the average Catholic does. I know they're drunk less.
Principled.
Yeah, they're more principled. They drink less than the average Catholic, for sure. I mean, I've been to I know that at a Jehovah's Witness party, when it's a defined Jehovah's Witness party, there's no drunkenness. I've never been to a Jehovah's Witness party where people got drunk. I mean, they might have a beer or two, but nobody got drunk. What they do in their own personal time, I don't, I do think that naturally, if you're creating a society where when you come together, you don't drink heavily, you're going to just be drinking less often, all the time.
Yes.
They're more principled. And like you said, they're more principled. And Muslims have a little bit of that. Muslims have the terrorist problem. People are scared of Muslims. Muslims, have a violence problem and stuff like that. But there's also another side to Islam where, yes, they do seem to be more principled sometimes and moral. But Islam is such a big, gelatinous religion at this point. There are so many Muslims that are drug addicts and drunks and violent in the street, and there's so many secular Muslims now that Islam is kind of losing that, Muslims are so religious, Muslims are so puritanical, you know what I mean? Like in America, at least, there's lots of these drinking, drugging, gay Muslims everywhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
But at least you have a standard with which to measure these, anyone claiming to be Muslim by. It's sort of, if you said, oh, I always tell the truth and I never steal, and then, somebody sees that you tell lies and that you steal, then they know that you don't keep your promises. You don't, you don't walk the walk.
Yeah. And
So,
just by going to church more often, just for being known for your religiosity is going to make people feel that you're more, even if they don't agree with you, that you're probably more moral. Like even if you are a Catholic, which are not known for religiosity, if you are a highly religious Catholic and people know about it, I think they're more likely to, believe you're not going to steal or do drugs or or things like that, or lie about people or gossip. And that's not always true, but I think that your religiosity helps people to feel a certain way about you. Though thankfully that's changing. Now if you're not so religious, actually it's changed a little bit, and that people will trust you if you curse a lot. There's this new movement in society that people who curse a lot are more trustworthy. People who aren't scared to get drunk in front of you are more trustworthy. There is a change in that, and that being religious almost makes you more untrustworthy. Who has that problem is Orthodox Jews in the major cities. In New York City, Orthodox Jews are known for being drug dealers, porn peddlers, criminals, racketeers. They are known for actually being worse than secular Jews when it comes to vice crimes, prostitution, things like that. They're known for being very big on vice crimes.
right, right. Are there any articles like talking about that? Any crime statistics and that sort of thing?
Well, I don't know about that. There's Failed Messiah. Is it failedmessiah.wordpress.com? Look up Failed Messiah. He's an ex-Chabad Lubavitch Jew who keeps tabs on all the crime activities of Chabad Lubavitch. Just type in Failed Messiah Chabad, and his web blog should come up. And any crime that goes on in the Chabad community, he reports on, and there's lots of financial crime. They're okay. Orthodox Jews are also, they're known for financial crimes, and I feel as though the Orthodox Jewish community is perhaps one of the only hyper-religious communities out there that are known for organized crime, that are known for scandals like that, and being in court a lot. Okay, like Jehovah's Witnesses are known in being for court for child molestation. They have a rampant above average problem with child molestation, and because they hide it, and but not for.
It'd be good to be able to collate crime statistics for convicted prisoners who identify as whatever religion they identify as. I mean, it'd be quite interesting to see which religious group is more known for what kind of crime. Don't you think? I mean, I wish they would. I don't think they. I guess they're too afraid of being seen to be racist to do it, but I think that would be a really interesting social study.
Yeah, I mean, it would be, but or at least they have the reputation, for being, the Orthodox Jews have a reputation for dealing ecstasy. They have a reputation for that in New York City, and they have.
Not the ultra orthodox though, or I mean, what they wear a kippah as they go around selling ecstasy.
Yes, the ultra orthodox. They're known for that. I mean, that's at least the stereotype. The stereotype of the criminal, drug dealing, prostitute visiting, hyper Orthodox Haredi Jew is it's a thing in New York City. I mean,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yes, that is. I mean,
Have you ever
I
bought any drugs from?
no, but I did. My roommate, who was not Jewish and was very secular and very liberal and drug taking and drinking and fucking and everything. Online, she found a Haredi Orthodox Jew who did like smoking weed and was looking for some Gentiles to be his friends and to hang out. And he was offering to buy her an air conditioner so he could come and stay in the room with them. And he would come over and he would offer them, drugs. And I mean, but he was a Haredi Jew.
Wow, and looking like one.
Yes, he was a Haredi Jew who dressed like one, and he wasn't selling drugs, but he was willing to smoke weed or was willing to buy all the weed for everybody, and he was.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, no, it was. He was a stereotype that, but there's definitely stereotypes that
Yes.
fit.
Well, they're
And
not supposed to.
well, no, they're not supposed to, and probably, you know what? Okay, I would say this. I would say probably your average Haredi Jew steals less and murders less and robs less and all these things less than Gentiles. Maybe not financial crimes, but violent crimes is probably less. But I think that there's definitely a small group of them that are deep into the ecstasy trade. Yes, I think that there's a small subset of rabbis that are into like high crimes, and I think maybe that they just do it better than others. Maybe the Jewish crime syndicates are better than others, and are more organized, and so they get this bad reputation because they're better criminals. That's like what happened to white people. They were better colonizers. So now they have this bad reputation because they were the biggest and the baddest of the bad. And I think that in the city, the Orthodox Jews are the biggest of the baddest of the bad when it comes to criminality. And so they kind of, they're viewed as being, hyper criminal.
Oh. But I suppose the group solidarity would assist in any enterprise, including criminal enterprises.
Yes.
Well, Jehovah's Witnesses are not known for running criminal gangs.
No, they're not. And, well, it's kind of hard when, you can't even come a police officer. You can't, they don't court officials for things like that. I don't think they have a lobby group. And even if they did have a lobby group, it would be like, it would only be to lobby for their own rights to like murder their children by not giving them blood transfusions or something like that. You know what I mean? They're not lobbying them for funds and things like that, and they're not rubbing elbows with the CIA people who bring in all the drugs. That's Chabad Lubavitch. I mean, Chabad Lubavitch has so many connections in the government. Of course they would be better criminals, than insider traders and things like that. They have all of these connections. Jehovah's Witnesses have no connections in the government other than to protect their own interests, but no, they're not. And, Jehovah's Witnesses are not trying to get people, they're not lobbying for war. So they're not involved in arms trade and all this other kind of stuff that you can get yourself, in trouble with, and they're
Right.
losers. They're losers. They don't get big jobs. They don't become wealthy. How are you how are you supposed to have enough money for crime when you're doing that? You're just some kind of loser. Mormons make better criminals. Mormons actually, Mormons had a reputation for being criminals and stuff like that in America in the early ages. In the early stages, they were viewed as being untrustworthy and Actually, I want to look this up now. You know that, look up, are you at your computer?
Yes.
Can you look up, early, early Mormonism in Russia and, or early Mormonism in Russia and, their association or their belief that they were criminals and stuff like that?
Okay, I'll have a look. I should look under early Mormonism, yes?
Mormonism in Russia. I think I was reading that. Yes, Mormons in Russia. Even there was early Mormons in Russia, and they had a bad reputation. Also, Mormons have a bad reputation in Russia because it's believed that they work for the CIA. It's actually Mormons are recruited by the CIA at higher proportions than other groups, but people think that's because they don't do drugs, and that's part of working for the federal government is not doing illegal drugs. So,
I'm surprised that they're in Russia. Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Russia. How interesting. I had no idea. Okay, I'm going to post it in the chat.
oh yeah. So what? I know that. Okay, let's see. Early beginnings. Okay, in 1843, 13 years after the church was founded, Joseph Smith called two missionaries, George J. Adams and Orson Hyde, to preach in Russia. Okay, some of the most important things concerning the building up of the kingdom of God in the last days involved Russia. Hold on. Russian press between the church over the practical. Okay, wait. Hold on. 1895 was their first baptism. Hold on. I'm looking for the thing where they were viewed as criminals. Russia's other Mormons. Apart from the informal reports of the church's missionaries, not contemporary research has been focused on non-Latter-day Saint Mormons in Russia. Okay, this is it. That there was these weird Mormon sects in Russia that were known for crimes. I'm looking for them. Hearing and passing on stories from native Russians about long-established Mormon communities already there. Whole tribes of native Siberians called themselves Mormons. Many people in villages around Orenburg and Samara are Mormons, but will deny it if you ask them. My grandmother was a Mormon, but he denied long ago, are paraphrases of the more common story types. See, yeah, I want to investigate this, but there's a weird connection of some people claiming to be Mormons in Russia, and they were associated with crime and stuff like that. I'm just okay. So the Mormon Church denied that they had any converts in Russia before 1989. For over a decade, many Latter-day Saint missionaries and members, scholars, and various Russians have assumed a historical link of some sort between these reported indigenous Russian Mormons and the newly arrived Church of Latter-day Saints. Some sort of link seems plausible since locals explain that besides sharing a name, the Russian Mormons also often did not smoke or drink, had strong family values, held secret worship services, and may have once practiced something like polygamy. The rumors even alluded to secretly transcribed copies of the Book of Mormon circulated in Russia for decades. Based on such parallels, some Latter-day Saint missionaries tried to reintroduce the local Mormons to the official church, but had difficulty finding them. At times, they seemed ephemeral. It seemed most stories of the lost Mormons in Russia would be best understood simply as new additions to a vibrant body of Latter-day Saint missionary folklore about independent Mormon groups in remote areas. Such folklore arises despite the church's great care to go through the front door and obey local laws. For example, eager young missionaries occasionally circulated rumors about secret church organization efforts in countries such as the Soviet Union in the 1970s and 1980s and China in the 1990s that are closed to missionaries. Hold on. I don't know, but okay. So yeah, there's these. Okay, I know. Like, yes, it's saying that Mormons in Eastern Bloc countries are persecuted because they believe the Book of Mormon started in the United States, and that the international headquarters is in Salt Lake City. Um,
They're treated as extremists in Russia.
yes, Mormons are kind of because they were put on ban for a little while because they were being associated with the CIA, and they thought it was a CIA operation. But Mormons have their own, thing about the Constitution in the United States being like sacrosanct and stuff like that. So there's an Americanism to Mormonism that people find dangerous.
Well, I guess they wouldn't like foreign religions. They would just, want Russians to be Christian Orthodox.
My God, it's even in Japan. But yeah, they're more involved in the government, and there's lots of accusations of um Mormon, like a Mormon, the Mormon mafia.
Well, I haven't heard about that, to be honest.
Well, it's not like everybody talks about it, but yeah, there's belief in a Mormon mafia. Maybe it's not believed to be like totally crazy, but there's conspiracies that Mormons, are trying to take over the world and stuff like that. There's people who believe that conspiracy.
Well, I mean, it's all a religious problem, isn't it? Because if you, what you want is everyone in your country, if you're running a country, to have the same religion. And then things would be much easier than having to manage all these different people who, who have a different religion. And you can sort of see why absolute monarchs in the age of monarchy insisted on all their subjects having the same religion as them. I mean, and even if they're all supposed to follow the same religion, there's still bound to be heretics, right?
Yes, but I mean, I think it's good for religions to kind of reassess themselves and be questioned and have competition and things like that. I mean, if
They do through war and empire. And top dog at the moment, technically, formally, officially, is Christianity, because it still has the largest numbers according to Pew Research, right? That, I think, is because of the three global empires that the Spanish, British, and American empires acquired. Because it just goes hand in hand. That if you're a successful empire, people will want to follow your religion because they think you're so successful and wonderful because of your wonderful religion. Will take a leaf out of your book, and that explains, well, why Christianity is global.
um, well, yes, but I mean, maybe. Well, I don't know if America was helped or hindered by, all of these cults. In a way, I think it was helped. I think, I mean, I would rather. I think that Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormons, Adventists, Christian Scientists, I think that they gave a different perspective. And, I think that, like with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they preached against the, British American Empire and things like that. So I think that, was good, and Adventists were believed that America was going to come to an end, and maybe it made people think a little bit deeper, and maybe this was the way. I don't necessarily think that the American British Empire should have been going around the world colonizing everybody. Maybe they should have not been doing that. Maybe they needed someone besides the Anglican Church and all of these, churches that are the spin-offs of the Anglican Church. Maybe they needed a different perspective.
Well, the thing is, it's happened, so I guess we're supposed to make some sense out of it. You could say it was meant to happen, and at the moment, with the Hamas-Israel war, I think it is a religious war, really. That the three Abrahamic religions are involved in it. You have these Zionists who are Jewish and Christian, and well, I would say that's what I was trying to argue on that space of fours. And I was saying that Hamas were conditional Zionists, because Hamas was saying you have to live under Sharia now. And obviously the Israelis are not liking the idea, but I'm basically saying that if God exists, he would agree with Hamas. Because God is saying in the Quran, in chapter 17, verse 104, that Jews can live in the promised land. Because it talks about dwelling. Children of Israel are to dwell in the promised land until the end times. So this verse, it triggers a lot of Muslims, because I use this verse to prove that there is a kind of Muslim Zionism. Because what does it mean but Allah saying Jews can live in Israel provided they live under Sharia. So I'm saying it's a kind of it is conditional Zionism. They can live there as long as they follow Sharia, and in the meantime Hamas will continue killing these Jews as long as they live under a liberal democracy. And obviously this has implication for the rest of the West. So imagine. Just imagine. I know it's very hard. If the Jews said yes, all right, well, just for a bit of peace and quiet, we will live under Sharia. I think Americans would be upset, because it's like they can work out that if the Jews in Israel submit to Sharia, it will not be long before the rest of the West submits to Sharia. And that's why they can't talk about it. Because it's these Jews. Because if they submit to Sharia, it means they Islam rules, and that is what Hamas is actually doing. It's a kind of religious and political movement. Because if you read the Hamas Charter, which is quite an interesting document, on one hand it does say it wants to obliterate the political entity that is the secular state of Israel. But I notice that Western media and Jews who hate Muslims, pretend that Hamas have nukes and intend to obliterate Israel that way. And that's obviously not the case, because it is Israel that has nukes. But they're spinning this yarn that Hamas wants to exterminate all the Jews. And actually what they want is you can all live there as long as you live under Sharia. And this is the message that is not getting through in the media, because the Western media would be censored by the CIA, who want the narrative that America is protecting the Jews after Britain sacrificed its empire to protect them.
Well, it's all about to change. I really see the Jews losing lots of allies, and I really don't see much pro-Jewish propaganda out there for Israel. I see all Palestine, except for the stupid fucking Hindus.
There's Edward Martin tagged me on a pro-Israel demo today, but I think that was kind of very organized with some difficulty. But I think even Islamophobes feel themselves to be Palestinians because they all those ants and the ant-like anti-Semites demonstrating in major European cities were I'm sure they weren't mostly Muslims. They were white people who didn't like Jews.
Well, I don't think leftists are actually like anti-Semites. I think leftists actually have, a point about, Israel being a problem with the Palestinians. And, I don't think leftists are just kind of like, well, we hate Jews, so we're just going to side with Palestine in order to just get against Jews. I think they actually have a real reason to be, for Palestine.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's mostly leftists. I mean, I think that there would be plenty of middle of the road people, as well as nationalists who do hate Jews. So I remember that there was this demonstration in 2003 in Hyde Park, and but everybody was there. There was Jesse Jackson and Ken Livingstone, the leftist London mayor of London, and a whole bunch of nationalists. So something about attacking Iraq brings out all these people who normally hate each other because they don't want war. It's only their government who wants war. And but unfortunately, when I tried to be helpful to these anti-Semites, saying don't call them Jews, call them neocons, then you wouldn't be accused of hate speech and being anti-Semites, and you might get a more interesting discussion if you talk about don't even say Zionist, because that's another kind of word for Jews that the Jews have worked out that if you're anti-Zionist, you're probably an anti-Semite. But if you say neocon, people say, oh, what does that mean? Kind of thing. And then you can actually have a conversation with people about, neoconservatism, which I would say is American imperialism, but which is never, talked about in Western media because, Western media is run by neocons in the CIA, propagating a certain narrative. So, I mean, yeah, there are a few things to kind of address here because, I think most people are just, they don't want to believe that their media is completely co-opted. And so you might spend a bit of time having to explain to them that the CIA controls Western media, and Edward Martin, this Facebook friend of mine who keeps calling me names, is one of those people. Because all I said was, look, America has a global empire, and it would want to control global opinion with global media through the CIA. Of course they would. It's not just it's not just the American empire. Anyone having a global empire would want to control the global media. And for some reason, so I kept asking him, look, is America a global empire or not? And he keeps avoiding the question. I mean, the extent of denial of, the most basic facts is actually quite astounding in my view. So he won't even admit that America's a global empire. I mean, it's got the eastern seaboard, the western seaboard. It's ideal for America to have a global empire. Controlling the Pacific, controlling the Atlantic and the Mediterranean, and also the South China Sea through having its naval bases in Australia. I mean, it is a global empire. But this is not the identity that Americans understand themselves to be. And I fear that a lot of Westerners are completely ignorant of their own history. I mean, that's why people want to go back to, well, Americans call themselves, well, some of them want to use Christian nationalism as a way of returning America to social conservatism. And I think it's evidence of them, not understanding the separation of the church and why it had to be done, and the First Amendment and freedom of belief and all that kind of thing. It's like they completely don't understand that part of their history, which means they don't value the First Amendment, which is, I would say, an American achievement. It's only through the Americans having the First Amendment that all these Europeans still under their absolute monarch said, well, we want some of this American freedom too. And then the French had their revolution, and then the British, I guess, liberalized, but before they got their revolution, and that's why they've been, saying, oh, conservatism, it's so wonderful. You have to change in incremental degrees to avoid, being overthrown in a violent revolution, like the Frenchies and like the Russians. I mean, that is their understanding of their, what they call their liberal tradition. But yeah, history is not being taught properly because, what happens is that historians like David Irving get put in jail for saying the wrong number or believing in the wrong narrative. I mean, it's obviously necessary for the British to say that the Nazis were particularly evil to justify their loss of empire, because they're going to be saying, oh, we shouldn't have been racist, we shouldn't have acquired all that empire, and we sacrificed our global empire to save the Jews, and we're so wonderful, and now the white man's burden of protecting the Jews have gone over to America, and they're protecting the Jews now. I mean that explains, Vincent, why people are even more neurotic about World War II the further they are away from World War II. You would have thought, it would be okay to talk about, what happened, because we are further away in time than, our parents or our grandparents. But not a bit of it. We're just, calling each other Nazis like, it was the worst thing in the world. And it makes no sense. I mean, okay, it makes people think that the Jews are in control, but I don't think they really asked for it. I mean, they were just given it, and obviously they were, very pleased that the law gives them so much protection, but they've just been, made the mascots of the Anglo-Saxon Empire, and this means that there will be a downside when, the Anglo-Saxon Empire is widely resented and in decline. Vincent?
Yes, do you have to go eat?
I might go away for a bit. Can you? Would you like to talk about your thing?
About what thing?
I don't know. I mean, you suggested a stream, so I thought you might have something that I kind of didn't.
How long have we been streaming? An hour?
About an hour.
Almost an hour, right? 58 minutes?
Yeah, 59:27.
Well, how about you go, and then if we want to stream later, we'll stream on my place.
Okay.
Okay.
All right then. I'll
Yep.
talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.